Aloha, my name is Jennifer O'Neal.
And I'm Michelle Snider.
Welcome to the That's Not Normal podcast, where we unpack the mysteries you were told not to believe in. Welcome back. Today, we wanted to talk about the process of separating your energy from somebody else's. And I feel like this is going to be a very good subject for most people, whether you are a healer, whether you are an empath, or just a regular person. I think that this can be a very helpful subject because it's coming up and being asked a lot to me specifically right now on how do I separate my energy from these people going through this thing, or how do I do this? How do I separate from a client? How do I separate from like somebody struggling? How do I not be involved with their energy, if that makes sense?
In most cases, this would probably be a situation where, like, it's a toxic energy a little bit that you're trying to
Well, yes,
establish,
that's a
right?
very good point because I think if people have great energy, you're like, how do I merge with their energy? Like, bring more of that into my life.
Yeah.
But in a way that if you're separating yourself from someone's energy that just doesn't feel good, or a situation or an experience that they're going through that doesn't feel good to you. So if anybody's causing you, to feel upset or frustrated or aggravated, there's ways to separate your energy from them. I do feel that a lot of empaths, whether they just be know they're empath, don't know they're an empath, or a healer, not a healer, they tend to accidentally merge their energy and kind of hang out there with most people. If you are an empath and you do this, this is not the best idea at all. And I do feel that when you start recognizing it, when you have a psychic sense and you start recognizing that you might be um, clairsentient, then you kind of are interested, I guess, at first, when in the beginning stages. You're like, well, this is interesting. I can really feel what they're going through. And what feels good is you connecting with your spiritual body. That's the aspect that feels fantastic, is you're learning to recognize your spiritual body. You're learning to navigate your spiritual senses, and that has this beautiful feeling, a little bit of tingles, sometimes a little bit of euphoria, sometimes depending on the level. And it feels good to reconnect and recognize that on a conscious level. Where it starts to skew and become a problem, however, is when you get deeply invested energetically in resolving a situation or really giving advice and getting caught up in their life path. And what I mean by that is how they're navigating their life's journey. And it can cause you to have an emotional response or an energetic response. And I feel like people are not aware sometimes of how much of this energetic entanglement starts to happen within relationships and people that you're talking to. And it doesn't mean necessarily a strong relationship. It could be a co-working relationship. It could be just a regular friendship. It could be like a deep relationship. The level of relationship doesn't matter. The type, it doesn't matter. It could even be an acquaintance for all that I care or you care. But when you start to notice that their energy is affecting yours, you have to learn to separate and step back. It's not going to do you any good. So let's talk about being an empath, for instance, or doing readings, or, well, actually, or giving friends advice. Let's just talk about all of it.
Yeah.
Um, when you start to get invested and you start to feel pulled down by their energy, that's a huge problem, because now you're allowing your energy to merge with theirs, potentially altering your own frequency from a situation, a decision, a catalyst in somebody else's chart that doesn't really involve you. And believe me, you have enough on your plate that you need to navigate already. you don't need to be navigating in an energetic entanglement with somebody else. It can cause you a lot of problems. It can cause you to not feel so good. It can cause you to feel moody. It can cause you to disconnect from your own intuitive senses. It can cause you to pull back from your spiritual body itself. There's a lot that can happen. You are not supposed to be emotionally entangled with people or energetically entangled with people. That's not really how that's supposed to work when you're working with your senses, your spiritual body and things like that. It doesn't do you any good to be in it with them. You
Yeah.
can't give the best advice if you're in it with them. You can't see clearly if you're in it with them. And then there's the whole free will factor where everybody assumes that people are looking for positivity in their life. All the relationships that you have, all the people you know, the acquaintances, there's this, I feel like, general assumption that most people are gravitating towards a better life, more positivity, more happiness. This is not the case. If you start opening up your spiritual senses and really being aware, you will notice that a lot of people are also just as enhanced or pulled towards negativity in their life. They get something from that. And this was pointed out to me a long time ago when I was very early stages of developing professionally, that you can see people get something from negative emotions and negative experiences, like the way that the energy feels in their body can be as addicting as positivity. There are similar frequencies sometimes in the way the body feels, only the frequency is lower or higher. But as far as the body feels, there's this type of excitement feeling. You can go either way. Just like excitement can be excited or it can be anxious. You know,
Yeah.
there's two sides to the coin. And sometimes negativity or that feeling that you get when there's negativity, that kind of excitement of drama is better, people feel like, than no activity at all. And what I mean by that is if they're having flat emotional responses, flat energetic experiences, they are not feeling fulfilled with anything that they're pursuing in their life. We crave expansion. We crave to expand our energy. This is why we're here. It feels good to us. This feels amazing. And if we're not doing something to pursue that on our own, we're looking for some type of energetic excitement or feeling or energetic alertment, I guess I would say. And that can be, again, either positive or negative. Sometimes people fall into the habit of creating an energetic environment that is amplified by negativity, and that can become addicting. And so they continue to do things to get that feeling because they're not feeling full or fulfilled inside, and they need something to gravitate towards. They need a change. They need um, something switching up the landscape. You know, they need more in their life. And there are people that gravitate towards that. And you're not going to change their behaviors. You're not going to change their destination, their birth chart at all. You're just going to have to be along for the ride. And so that's where separation is absolutely required. Actually, I feel like energetic separation should be on your radar with all relationships, even if you're in spousal relationships, because you're also very close to those people. And if they have emotional ups and downs, you will go with them, and that's not the healthiest place for you to be, even for your partner. Sometimes, if your partner's having emotional ups and downs, you need to be the stable one in the sea. You need to be anchored. You need to not follow them along on their journey. Let them come back, and you're their anchor point. You're their island. You're their grounding space. So, more often than not, it's better for you to sort of detach from those things. Now, you can be supportive, but we don't need to be going down, this roller coaster of emotions with them necessarily all the time. It's just not a healthy place to be. So then we have the aspect of empaths. Well, I naturally tune in. I naturally tune into other people's energy. Well,
Well,
you
can I jump in really quick? Because
yeah,
I think as an empath, I struggle with this. And so I have a very silly example, but you tell me because I'm starting to realize I'm like, well, if I'm just watching a television show, I don't even care if it's a credit card commercial. And if it's sad, I'm in tears. I am a wreck, like absolute mess. And I'm like, if I'm letting a television commercial or a show affect me this significantly, then what am I doing to all of the other with all of the other relationships in my life? Like,
well, I'll let you answer that question. What are you doing? How are those going?
ugh, um,
More extreme, I would assume?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay. So, some people ask, why is it that empathic stuff can happen during commercials or things like that? Um, it can happen because it gets a little bit deep where you don't realize that there's an energetic intent of the actor to take on a role of a persona and a personality. So it's energetically created and therefore put out there. And so if you're an empath, you can still feel the emotions because the intention behind it is created. So it's there. As an empath, you can read intention. This is why I am not in love with horror movies. It's just not
yeah,
a
I don't
thing
like
I
it.
like to. I don't enjoy those whatsoever. So there's that. Now, I think that it's okay if it's affecting your life, like, for a minute or something.
Yeah,
You have the commercial, you have the show, and maybe sometimes it's enjoyable to have like an emotional ride on a TV show. But I can tell you, when it comes to a TV show or something, you're not emotionally invested, though. That doesn't keep going on for days and days. You're not having a relationship with this show. So
correct.
there's a
But
cutoff point.
I would often then be like those emotions that I was feeling would kind of spark other things related to my life that I would then start thinking about and kind of ruminating on. So it was more of like all of these emotions that I feel
So that
connected
would be
to.
more of what I would call a trigger point.
Yes.
So you are using in those instances, those are trigger points to other areas of your life, which now we're going to get into the healing aspect of what to do from a healing standpoint. Um, on probably the next podcast. But when it comes to this, separating your emotions, I'm talking about more for people and people energy. So let's like remove the shows out of it. You're an empath and you are going to work, and one of your coworkers is struggling with the same problem every day. Let's just use that for an example. Maybe they're in a toxic relationship because that's an easy one that typically happens often. So then you give advice, they go back, they do it again. You give advice, and there's just no end to this relationship. And you start noticing that you start feeling frustrated or irritated because nothing is changing. They're still complaining and it's still going on. You need to then, it is your responsibility to not be heavily invested into their birth chart. And I think that that's the part that people are missing. They have free will. They can navigate their birth chart any way they want to. The reason that they're in those particular situations is because of catalysts that they put in their chart. They are supposed to learn something from those. Then there's the aspect of how strong is their free will? What energy are they gravitating towards? And then there's the aspect of, is their frequency low or is it high? Because if it's low, they're going to gravitate towards low frequency relationships. So they might end that relationship that's frustrating you. But if they're of low frequency, they're just going to attract another one.
Mm.
So there's all of these things that come into play with a person's life circumstance. And for you to be emotionally invested in their story can become a little dangerous on your part for having your own protection as far as your emotional response to them. And like you just said, even if you have a trigger point, that then spurs something within you, an experience that you had, a relationship that you had. Those are the parts that we need to focus on. We don't need to spend time helping to navigate their situation when they're very clearly gaining something from the energetic exchange. And now I'm going to repeat myself because a lot of people are going to be like, well, why would they gain something from a negative exchange? Because you are bypassing the fact that negativity still has an excitement factor to it in some instances. It creates a response within your body that also can become addicting. And unless they are willing to break that habit or the pattern, and they're willing to go into unfamiliar territory, which is also very scary for people. Everybody loves to know what their environment's going to look like. They love to know what their landscape's going to look like energetically. They want to feel comfortable. You can't have it both ways. You can't have comfort and then go into unfamiliar territory and seek change. So you're not going to be able to change your life, seek out something different if you're stuck in the uncomfortable factor. It's paralyzing for people. So now we have to switch our whole perspective on unfamiliar territory is amazing because that's places I've never been before, which means there's a lot of cool stuff over there. And now we're working with belief system, etc. So there needs to be separation, especially when there's an ability involved. There's no good that it will do you hanging out in somebody else's emotional state, unless it's like you said, it's like this very happy, fun place. And if that's you, then you probably shut off the podcast already. But if you're hanging out in a place that doesn't feel good to you, that's a problem. That's not what the ability is for. It's not what you're supposed to be doing. It's not going to enhance your life. It's not going to do any good. And if you're a reader or a healer, same thing. You can tune in for a minute and then you need to pull back out. It's not going to be helpful. In fact, it's going to be very much a hindrance in your healing abilities to stay in that with them, because now you're not objective. Now you're not tuning into the things that you need to tune into. It's a very huge block problem. And if you're already doing it, you will want to practice reversing it because you'll find that you'll probably gain a lot more clarity. So it's just not healthy. We don't need to suffer with other people. And I think that some people feel like they're being a good spouse, friend, family member if they are suffering through something with somebody. I'm going to go through this with you. You
Yeah.
are not alone. I'm going to suffer. If you're hurting, I'm going to hurt. Again, I do not see the value in that. I think the value in being a strong family member, a strong spouse, a strong partner who can help bring clarity and help lead somebody to the light at the end of the tunnel is such a huge value to somebody's life. I would rather have somebody standing strong if I need somebody to stand strong because I will navigate the other stuff on my own. That makes you feel like my rock, my stable point. I value that in somebody. We don't need somebody else melting down. We're just running around in circles with our hair on fire. That's just a terrible idea,
Yeah.
you know? So I think practicing separation is very important.
But
And
how? I was gonna ask that how, like, if I'm deep in the emotions, how do I separate? Do I need to, like, visualize
number
the
one
field
is
around me
the
or
first thing would be awareness. Okay, now you've discovered you're deep in this with somebody. Okay. The second thing is, am I gaining anything from this? What are you gaining from being knee deep in with them? Because most likely 99.9% of the time, you're not gaining anything. You're gaining clarity for a half a second. And then beyond that, you're not. The third thing is, are you looking at all points of view energetically? Are you really acknowledging why this person might be in this relationship? And what that means is you need to really be truthful, which would be the fourth aspect. Even good people suffering might not be doing it right. They might be messing up things. They might be making poor choices, and that is
Mhm.
their entire prerogative. It is their life journey. It is their call to make. And then the last thing is you have to respect what they're doing because it is their free will.
Yeah.
So once you recognize it, then you go, am I gaining anything from this? Then the third thing is, well, what are they gaining from this? What message might they be trying to get? What should they be doing differently? Is this a catalyst to get them to change? Are they resistant to change? Are they refusing to change? Are they stubborn? Are they scared? Like understanding in a 360 environment of why that this situation is going on, and then accepting they might just want to not necessarily want to because that's not how they would say it, but they might be more comfortable being in this position than they are not being in this position. You have to accept that.
Yeah.
They have to have some sort of action to have a reaction. So if somebody is complaining about their life or a situation or toxic relationship, there has to be an action to have a reaction that's different. So they need to make a shift to have a reaction in a change in their life. And if they can't do that, we need to respect their position. We need to allow that journey to unfold the way that they're deciding that they're going to unfold. Now, here's the problem with that. Accepting somebody else's choices will usually, if you're empathic or have any psychic senses will make you uncomfortable for a very uh good moment. I'll just tell you, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. Now that aspect is your problem. If them continuing to do something that is you can tell is not the best for them, you've given them advice, they're not taking it, they're still walking down that road, and you're like, well, I got to accept this. Oh, I don't like this road, this makes me very uncomfortable. Oh geez, there's so many bumps in this road. Oh my gosh, I know what's going to happen. Then we start getting into this uncomfortable place, so we're
Yeah.
just like, oh gosh, we're just watching it happen and we can't stop watching it. Well, that's not, now that's a you problem. And
Yeah.
if we're really that focused on somebody else's stuff, I would highly suggest you refocus where you're at in life, because I can promise you we always have stuff to clean up in our life. And that's where we can be very effective. And that's where we can be very powerful and we can see some tremendous results, is refocusing into our own life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
All right. So hopefully that was helpful. Until next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you like today's topic, be sure to give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already.
All right. All right. Well, have a good day and good luck with that. All right. Bye.
Bye.